moving right along to our next Patreon request, and this one comes from SwiftBlitz 887. And SwiftBlitz asked me to do my 5 favorite cartoons. Not a top 5, but just my 5 all-time favorite cartoons. As always, if you guys would like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link below. Head on over to my Patreon, where you guys can hit the 3rd tier. That'll allow you access to do so. Patreon link is in the description below. Just head on over there if you want to have a Patreon request done yourselves. Anyway, so, as I've said before, I've done like 5 favorite I think of games and anime, but now we do cartoons. So a couple rules real quick. As always, this is just my personal list. If you think one of these 5 shouldn't be on this list, that's totally fine. I'm always excited to hear your 5 favorite cartoons of all time. I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say about these cartoons and what your 5 favorite cartoons are. This is just my personal list. Also, another thing I am going to implement is that I am going to implement that I'm not going to have superhero cartoons on here. If I did include superhero cartoons like Spectacular Spider-Man or, X-Men the Animated, it would all just be superhero cartoons. And yeah, I wanted to do that as a different list, or maybe someone can do that as a request in the future. So yeah, even though, yes, there are a lot of superhero cartoons that I absolutely adore, I decided, it's just going to be strictly original cartoons, for the most part. So there you go. Anyway, and again, this list is just 5 favorites. It's not like top 5 of all time. It's just if I had a gun to my head and said, what are your 5 favorite cartoons of all time, it'd be these 5. So let's get started. So, our first cartoon I really want to talk about is one that's kind of recent-ish, and though every time I think about when it ended, I feel like a sudden wave of old wash over me. And I have the DVD collection right here. Gravity Falls. Gravity Falls is by far one of the best animated shows in recent history. Gravity Falls also is kind of the reason, why we got, almost said Boy Like Us, The Owl House, and other great Disney cartoons, all because they stemmed from that Gravity Falls tree. It was a great show of humor and horror and a deep character, some deep character introspective, and also talking about losing one's childhood throughout their lives. It's kind of subtly there. It's almost like an existential horror kind of thing in a way. The show is just phenomenal. Animation-wise, story-wise, one of the best cartoon villains of all time. Bill Cipher just knocks it out of the park. This show is great. This show basically had if it weren't for Gravity Falls, we wouldn't have, The Owl House or Amphibia, or for lack of a better, for better or for worse, Star vs. the Force of Evil without it. Gravity Falls basically, for Disney, for a brief moment, for the briefest of moments in animation, it kicked open the doors and allowed us to have, this mini golden age, a second Disney animated series renaissance, in a way. Anyway. Yeah, so I had, Gravity Falls had to be in this if I was to ever be asked, what's my 5 favorite cartoons, Gravity Falls would be without a doubt on that list. Same with this one, although I am going to, I'm going to be using one season to showcase it. Avatar: The Last Airbender. Avatar: The Last Airbender was another one. It's one of those shows that's the fact that this got made, the fact that this was a thing, the fact that this show, in terms of storytelling, animation, music, everything about this show, it's one of those, it will never come again. It was like when Batman the Animated Series first premiered, and everyone thought, this is a once in a a generational cartoon. This is going to be a thing that will be forever ingrained in terms of a franchise. It's still going strong to this day with Avatar Studios coming out with new material in the next few years. That's something the fact that this animated Avatar: The Last Airbender is still remembered fondly and still going strong. and then had a sequel series that, while it did have its its speed bumps here and there, Legend of Korra was still a solid show. It was still a show that is well worth remembering, and a great addition to that universe. I don't care what certain people say. Legend of Korra, yeah, the second season's not great. The first season has its road bumps, but on a whole, rewatching Legend of Korra, it's actually not awful. Like, it's not awful. It can't compare to... It's no Avatar: The Last Airbender, but it doesn't fucking need to be. So, yeah. Avatar: The Last Airbender, yeah, that's another one. So we got 2 down, we still got 3 more to go to talk about. And remember, this isn't like top 5, so it's just 5 favorites. So who is in this 5 out of 5 favorite cartoons of all time? Like, who's next on that list? Well, the next one on that list... While I don't have the DVD collection, the DVD or Blu-ray collection of this series, it definitely is a show that I will never stop loving. And that is Samurai Jack. Samurai Jack is a Cartoon Network show that fucking nailed the goddamn... it just knocked animation off its shoes. Like, it was a show that was brilliant storytelling, brilliant animation, brilliant character work. And while, yes, that final season on that Adult Swim final season did have some hiccups and bumps in the road, it still, for lack of a better word, was a kick-ass show. Although I will say that I think the ending they did in the IDW comics when they were doing Samurai Jack books, I think I liked that ending a little more than the ending we got for, the animated show. But still, that final season was phenomenal, and no one thought we would get that kind of reboot and retelling for this day and age. So, the fact that we got it all was phenomenal. But yeah, Samurai Jack is one of the greatest animated cartoons of all time, and I will fight you on that. But then again, I don't think anyone would would dare, question it, right? Like, no one's gonna question Samurai Jack being one of the greatest cartoons of all time, right? Like, no one's gonna be, try to debate that. I think we can... It's like one of those... Yeah, it's universally agreed upon. Anyway, so now we have our next one. And I do have a DVD to showcase to illustrate my point. Ed, Netti! Ed, Netti, another great Cartoon Network show. It is by far my favorite Cartoon Network show. Yes, I love Samurai Jack. Don't get it twisted. I absolutely adore Samurai Jack. But at the same time, Ed, Netti is just something special. The comedic timing of that show is phenomenal. I still quote that show to this day. The voice work is fun of how they got these voice actors to just bounce off of each other. I talked about it in my top 10 favorite Cartoon Network shows of all time. But yeah, it's still one of my favorite shows. Yes, I love Samurai Jack, and Ed, Netti I love just as much. I love it. It's one of my favorite cartoons. It's a cartoon I will always come back to. I will just feel in a nostalgic mood and just come back to this show no matter what. That's the effect it has on me. Now, while I did say, because now we've gotten through 4 of the shows, while I did say that this isn't a top 5, there is one cartoon that I will always hold above all else. More so than any cartoon that I think is the greatest piece of animation in terms of cartoons in general. It's a great show, great storytelling, and I have... This is no matter what. I will fight... I will even say, it is better than Batman the Animated Series or X-Men the Animated Series. It is by far, in terms of storytelling, characters, everything. It is peak cartoon for me. And this is just my personal opinion, but it's got to be this show. Gargoyles. I know I said this isn't a top 10, but a top 5 or anything, but Gargoyles is, for me, my favorite cartoon of all time. If I had to pick the one show out of all the other 5, all the 5 I've mentioned so far, yeah, the fact of the matter is, I would still choose Gargoyles as my number one of all time. Like, it is the show that I would pick no matter what. Like, if I had to, like, if I whittled down my favorite animated shows to all, like, which one would it survive the... If I had to purge them again and could only keep one, it'd be Gargoyles, no contest. Greg Weisman knows how to tell a universe, weave an amazing story. There's just all of this great characters and world building and everything else, and told in a way that wasn't talking down to children, and it still doesn't in the comics, and I'm excited to read Volume 2 whenever that comes out. Yeah, Greg Weisman, I tip my hat to you. You've made the greatest animated show of all time, at least in my opinion. Anyway, so and like I said, this is just my personal opinion on it. Like, this is just my honest-to-God personal opinion, and I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say. And this was actually pretty tough, because while I knew Gargoyles was gonna be on this list of 5 favorite cartoons, I didn't, it was really tough to pick who would be the other 4. Because I love Danny Phantom, Steven Universe, Transformers Beast Wars, or just Transformers in general. There are so many other shows that I like, but when it really came down to it, it's like, what do these cartoons mean for me, and how much I love them? So there you go, in no order, except for Gargoyles. That's the top of the mountain. The other ones: Gravity Falls, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Samurai Jack, Ed, Nettie. There you go. So you guys tell me in the comments below, what are your 5 favorite cartoons of all time? And like I said, if you want to include superhero cartoons, that's fine. I didn't, because, like, if I did, it'd be chock full. Like, it'd be Gargoyles and 4 superhero cartoons, and that's just not fair. So maybe I'll do superhero cartoons in another video, or someone will send me that as a Patreon request. But yeah, just comment below, let me know. Once again, I'd like to thank Swift Blitz for this Patreon request, and like I said, if you'd like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon. If you guys hit the 3rd tier, that'll allow you access to do so. But yeah, excited to hear what you guys have to say about this one. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.